Hello everyone, and welcome to the RV Inspection and Care podcast and video. I'm Dwayne, I'm a certified RV inspector, and today we're going to be talking about the best air compressors to use for RV living and travel. Yes, a good air compressor is an essential piece of equipment for RVers. And the most important job or task that an air compressor has around an RV is to keep your tires inflated properly. That's critical. It's a life safety issue. But having a good air compressor handy is also great for inflating items like kids' toys or a temporary bed or things like that. Believe me, it'll save a lot of time and effort over trying to blow them up manually. And having an air compressor with a tank attached to it can also be good for running air tools. So for you do-it-yourselfer RVers who like to use air tools in your projects, that could be very useful as well. And with the right adapter, an air compressor can also be used to blow all the water out of your plumbing lines at the end of the RVing season when you're winterizing your RV too. So I think you can see there's a lot of good uses for an air compressor around an RV. But the question is, what kind of air compressor and what specifications should you be looking for? Personally, I think you need to decide, first of all, whether it will have a tank or not. Because if you're going to be doing do-it-yourself projects around the RV, then it can come in handy. But the truth is that if you're just using an air compressor for inflating tires and other items, there's really no need for a tank. In fact, the tank just takes up very precious space and weight that's not necessary. The other thing you need to know is, what are the maximum PSI tire ratings for the tires on your rig? What are they going to require? And that will tell you what size air compressor you're going to need. Now, travel trailers generally only use about 60 to 80 PSI in their tires, but a Class A motorhome, well, that could require up to 120 PSI in those big 22.5-inch tires. My recommendation is it's best usually to get an air compressor that's actually more than your current needs, because if you decide to upgrade your RV later on down the line to a bigger one, you don't have to go and get another air compressor. You can just take the one you have with you. Now, another thing you need to know is how much cubic feet per minute an air compressor will be able to put out. And that's simply the amount of air that it's pushing out at one time. And the higher the number, the faster the inflation rate, and that means the faster you get done with your job or your task of inflation. Also keep in mind that most tankless air compressors are going to run on 12-volt battery power. On the other hand, air compressors with tanks are usually going to require 120-volt AC power. So you're going to need an outlet for them that will be able to be powered even when you're not necessarily connected into shore power. But when we're talking about 12-volt air compressors that run on battery power, usually they plug into the cigarette lighter or they attach to your battery. And when they do, they're kind of stationary at that point. So the other thing you're going to need to consider is having a long enough hose that can reach for the entire RV. And I recommend that the hose should be somewhere between 30 and 60 feet in length, and probably get one that's kind of wound up tightly and can expand out as you need it. And that way that doesn't take nearly as much room in your storage. The next thing you want to consider with air compressors is its duty cycle. And what is a duty cycle? It simply asks how long can that air compressor run continuously without having to shut off and cool down. Some air compressors can only run for about 15 minutes and then they have to shut off for a while. Others can run for an hour or so. Now, the duty cycle is usually represented in the specifications for an air compressor as a percentage. If you see 100% duty cycle, it means it can go a full hour. If you see 50%, that means about 30 minutes, and 33 1/3 means 20 minutes, and so on. All right, well, let's get to the point though of what brands of air compressors you should consider. Here are my recommendations. First of all, let's consider an air compressor that has a tank. And in that case, I'm going to recommend the DeWalt 6-gallon air compressor. It can inflate up to 165 psi, and that means it can handle pretty much anything an RV can throw at it. Also, it's very good for using with air tools, so for the do-it-yourselfers. The cost is going to be around $190, and yes, there are other air compressors with tanks available, but I chose DeWalt because the name is known for reliability and quality. Next up, we're going to talk about two tankless air compressors. The first one is the Viair 88P. It can inflate up to 120 psi. That's very good. The duty cycle is around 25 minutes at 30 psi. So if you're running higher than that, it could be less. And the cubic feet per minute's around 1.4. The average for these kind of air compressors is around 2. So it's a little low. It means it's going to take you longer then to inflate things. But the good news is the price. It comes in at only $90, and that's very good. It's a very good air compressor to choose for travel trailers and smaller motorhomes. Next up is the best that I can recommend for you, and that is the Viair 400P-RV. And I think you can tell it's made for RVs. It can inflate up to 150 psi. That's great. It has a 100% duty cycle, so it can go a full hour running flat out. And the cubic feet per minute rating is 2.3. That's considerably more than the 88P and should get things inflated quicker for you. Now, the downside is the cost. It comes in at $350. But let me say this. This particular air compressor is a buy it and forget it type of air compressor. It can last you through any RV change you're going to make. And so it could be considered for that reason. I guess you've noticed that I only recommended Viairs for tankless air compressors. There's a reason for that. Once again, Viair is well known in the RV industry. It's known for its reliability and for its quality. If you look on Amazon, there are thousands of reviews for Viair air compressors, all coming in around 4.7 out of 5 rating. So that pretty much tells you that you're buying a good product. But any of the air compressors that I mentioned here in the video will work well. I'll put links to them in the description of both the video and the podcast, and that way you can go check them out and see if there's something that will work for you. Hopefully the video that I've made today is going to help you choose the right air compressor for your needs and budget and help you enjoy safe and happy travels. And that's it for now. Have safe and happy travels, my friends. Until next time.